Have you ever noticed something unusual about classic Japanese cars? Take a look at an old Toyota Century, a Nissan Skyline Hakosuka, a Datsun 240, or many Japanese cars built before the 1980s. Did you spot it? The side mirrors aren't mounted on the doors. They're sitting all the way out on the front fenders. To people outside Japan, it looks completely backwards. So, why would anyone put mirrors so far away from the driver? Wouldn't they be harder to see? Wouldn't door mirrors be much more practical? Here's something that surprises almost everyone. For decades, Japanese passenger cars weren't allowed to have door mirrors. That's right, they were illegal. But here's the twist. That law alone doesn't explain why fender mirrors became such an important part of Japanese automotive history. And before we continue, here's something many people misunderstand. If you visit Japan today, you probably won't see many fender mirrors. Modern Japanese cars look just like cars in Europe or North America, with mirrors mounted on the doors. Today, fender mirrors are mostly found on classic cars, preserved vintage vehicles, and a few specialty vehicles. So why did an entire country once build cars this way? As someone who works with Japanese used cars every day, I still come across classic models equipped with factory fender mirrors. Every time I see one, I'm reminded there was real engineering behind it. Let's go back in time. To understand fender mirrors, we need to go back to the years when Japan was rapidly rebuilding after World War II. The economy was growing. Roads became busier every year. But there was one major problem. Japan's roads were never designed for large numbers of automobiles. Many streets had existed for centuries. They were narrow, crowded, and often shared by pedestrians, bicycles, and cars. Keeping drivers focused became a major priority. At the time, Japanese safety experts believed drivers should spend as much time as possible looking straight ahead. They argued that checking a door mirror required drivers to turn their heads farther away from the road. Even if it lasted only a second, that second could matter. Because of this philosophy, Japanese regulations required passenger cars sold in Japan to use fender-mounted mirrors instead of door mirrors. Every Japanese manufacturer followed the rule. Toyota, Nissan, Honda, Mazda, Subaru. Whether they built economy cars, luxury sedans, sports cars, or flagship models. If it was sold in Japan, it wore its mirrors on the front fenders. Before long, it simply became normal in Japan. Outside Japan, however, people couldn't understand it. Many assumed Japanese designers were following a strange styling trend. But they weren't. The mirrors weren't placed there for appearance. They were there because the law required them. Then, in 1983, everything changed. Japan revised its regulations and finally allowed door mirrors on passenger cars. Manufacturers quickly embraced the new freedom. Door mirrors looked more modern, fit better with aerodynamic designs, and matched the international style. Customers were beginning to prefer. Within only a few years, fender mirrors began disappearing from new passenger cars. But it wasn't the end of the story. After decades of using fender mirrors, engineers and professional drivers had discovered something unexpected. In certain situations, fender mirrors actually worked remarkably well, and that's where the story becomes even more interesting. So, if Dr. Mirrors eventually replaced fender mirrors, why did Japan use them for so many years? The answer wasn't just the law. There were practical reasons too. Let's take a closer look. Let's start with one of the biggest advantages: keeping your eyes closer to the road ahead. Think about how you normally check a door mirror. Your eyes and often your head move away from the windshield. But when traffic suddenly slows or something unexpected happens, every moment counts. When Japan's traffic regulations were originally developed, safety officials believed drivers should be able to check their mirrors while keeping their attention as close to the road ahead as possible. Because fender mirrors sit farther forward, drivers only need to shift their eyes slightly instead of turning their heads as much. Whether they're objectively safer than modern door mirrors is still debated. Today's vehicles have better mirrors and advanced safety systems. But decades ago, the thinking was very different. There was another reason: Japan itself. If you've ever visited Japan, you've probably noticed that many streets are incredibly narrow, especially in older neighborhoods. Concrete walls, utility poles, bicycles, pedestrians, cars coming from the opposite direction. Everything shares the same limited space. Driving through streets like these requires patience and precision. This is where many drivers appreciated fender mirrors. Because they're mounted near the front corners of the vehicle, They provide an excellent reference point when maneuvering through tight spaces. Once you get used to them, you develop a surprisingly accurate sense of where the front corners of the car are. Parking and driving through narrow streets become much easier. Of course, the car isn't actually any narrower, but it becomes easier to judge exactly where it's positioned. And in Japan, sometimes just a few centimeters make all the difference. There was another practical benefit: visibility. Because the mirrors sit farther away from the driver, they provide a different viewing angle than conventional door mirrors. Some experienced drivers felt this gave them a more natural view alongside the vehicle. Others simply preferred what they had become accustomed to. Of course, Fender mirrors weren't perfect. Since they were mounted farther away, adjusting them wasn't always convenient. Many older cars required manual adjustment from outside the vehicle. Keeping them clean also took more effort. Then, during the 1980s and 1990s, manufacturers focused heavily on aerodynamics. Door mirrors created less wind noise, blended naturally into streamlined body designs, and made electric adjustment and power-folding mirrors much easier to implement. Little by little, the advantages of modern door mirrors outweighed the benefits of Fender mirrors for everyday drivers. But even as they disappeared from new passenger cars, Fender mirrors never disappeared from automotive history. For many enthusiasts, they became one of the defining symbols of classic Japanese cars. So why did Fender mirrors almost disappear? The answer is simple. Cars evolved, roads changed, and drivers' expectations changed too. By the late 1980s and throughout the 1990s, manufacturers focused on building quieter, more aerodynamic and fuel-efficient cars. Door mirrors fit perfectly into this new generation of vehicles. They produced less wind noise, blended naturally into modern body designs, and made features like electric adjustment and power-folding mirrors possible. As technology advanced, blind spot monitoring systems and cameras reduced the original advantages of Fender mirrors. Little by little, they disappeared from new passenger cars. Today, almost every new car sold in Japan looks much like cars in Europe, North America, or Australia. Door mirrors have become the global standard. Many younger Japanese drivers have never experienced Fender mirrors. For them, they're simply part of automotive history. But that's exactly why they're still loved by JDM enthusiasts around the world. When people outside Japan see a classic Skyline, a Toyota Century, a Cedric, or an early Fairlady Z, those mirrors immediately stand out. They're one of the easiest ways to recognize a classic Japanese domestic market car. They're not flashy. They're not expensive. But they instantly tell a story about how Japan solved driving challenges in its own unique way, about how its roads, regulations, and engineering philosophy shaped the cars it built. As someone who works with Japanese used cars every day, I still have the chance to see these classics from time to time. Whenever I see an original car still wearing its factory Fender mirrors, I don't think, that looks old. Instead, I think, that's a piece of automotive history. Those mirrors remind us that good engineering isn't always about copying everyone else. Sometimes it's about finding the best solution for the environment you're designing for. Japan's roads were different. Its regulations were different. So Japanese engineers created a solution that worked remarkably well for their country. Today, Fender mirrors are no longer common on Japanese roads, but they remain one of the most recognizable symbols of classic JDM culture. Even small design details can tell remarkable stories. That's why I enjoy sharing Japanese car culture with people around the world. Because once you know the story, you never look at these cars the same way again. So, what do you think? If you owned a classic Japanese car, would you keep the original Fender mirrors? Or would you replace them with modern door mirrors? I'd genuinely love to hear your opinion. Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy discovering the hidden stories behind Japanese cars, from classic JDM legends to K-trucks to unique pieces of automotive history, be sure to subscribe. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Drive safely.